When I was in high school, the younger brothers of like some triad bosses would come into the school and chase me and my friends out.
Right.
Because they would try to pull us into the gang,
They
into the
recruit you,
group.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. This happened for like a good couple of weeks and it really brought me down.
Yes.
You and Emir decided to come down to where I live, to Peckham. Not to fight these guys,
No.
but to talk to them.
Yes.
I was shocked because I was thinking like, if you come down and talk to them, it's not going to end nicely. You know, that was very profound for me. And it gave me a sense of security. It's because no, we're brothers in the church.
Yes.
And it was your duty as the Kadiwa president to look after those under your care.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the comforting things that, you know, the church and our community in the church has brought to me.
I'd say the universal problem that underpins a lot of the mental health problems with undercurrent of a lack of safety. People are mentally and physically exhausted. All of the young people who reported struggling, they all universally stated that they were all feeling unsafe physically,
Really?
in person, online. Most reported not having friends to turn to. Those, you know, the ones who you know they've got your back.
And without that, you really have no security.
You don't. You know, I'm in a position where I can see both sides. Treat patients who don't have that safety and security that the church provides. I asked the question, if you were a member of the church, the solution would be easy.
Darwin, if you could please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Darwin Buyson. I'm a clinical psychologist and I mainly work in the NHS.
What's the NHS for the sake of our viewers?
So it's here in the UK, it's the National Health Service. And basically our healthcare here in the UK is free at the point of access. But it also means that everyone has access to healthcare. So one of the benefits of that is that people who wouldn't normally be able to afford help are able to access it.
So that's an important point. You being a psychologist, right, to all kinds of people. So you understand like the kind of the mental landscape of a whole range of people.
Absolutely.
Not only for those who can afford mental health care, but also those who can't.
Yeah.
So that actually gives us quite a unique insight.
Yeah. No, just following on from that. So we do see people who not only wouldn't ordinarily be able to access the help that they need, but also they are more reluctant to help, to seek the help that they need because of the nature of their problems.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that people can easily talk about.
Let's talk about what you've noticed as a psychologist, especially, you know, the people who you cater to or the people you treat. What is really stand out in mental health today amongst the people that you've seen?
Well, I've been practicing since 2010, and I would
13 years, yeah.
Yeah, about 13 years now. And I can honestly say I've never known it to be this busy. The demand for mental health services is through the roof.
So you're telling me since 2010 you've seen like a massive increase?
Oh yeah.
Demand, really?
Especially, I would say in the last,
Really?
where are we now, 2023? I'd say in the last 5-6 years,
Really?
it's
Wow.
really accelerated, the demand. And I've got some stats here as well.
Yeah, if you can share those with us.
Yeah. So this is a study which was originally done in 2017 here in England, and it's basically a survey of the mental health of young people in England. So they did the original study in 2017, and they did a follow-up in 2022 last year, and the numbers are quite shocking actually when you do a deep dive into them. So if I read off some of the numbers, so in 2022, just last year, 18%, almost 1 in 5, 7 to 16-year-olds. I have a 7-year-old, so this
7 to 16.
7 to 16-year-olds had a probable mental health problem. For 7 to 16-year-olds, it was back in 2017, 1 in 9.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Last year, it's now 1 in 6.
Wow. That's crazy. Wow.
And then for 17 to 19-year-olds, it was 1 in 10 back in 2017. And now it's 1 in 4. Now, that's a shocking number, 1 in 4. If you imagine all the 17 to 24-year-old people you know, 1 in 4 are struggling with their mental health. And
this is reflected in your practice.
Absolutely.
You've seen it.
Yeah. So we've seen a huge increase in the numbers of people being referred for first episode psychosis treatment. And I would say we are seeing more than double our capacity. So you can imagine how that impacts the quality of care that we can give. You know, we basically are under-resourced by half.
Right. And because you have less people to care, more people to care for, well, obviously you only have like a finite amount of time you can give.
Yeah.
Right. So what's that like? Because we were talking earlier on, care requires time, requires effort.
Yes.
But how does that work?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't work. The kind of care that is required for people who are struggling with the most severe mental health problems, as you said, it requires time, patience. It requires clinicians to be able to work and be alongside really, really difficult experiences.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that takes a lot out of people.
Yeah.
It takes a great deal of their own mental capacity, and that's unsustainable, and that results in inadequate care. It also actually results in frustration because we can't really, truly, genuinely help the people that we were supposed to help.
So I can imagine a scenario where a way to help ease the demand would be like prescribing medicines or drugs instead of going through the regular processes like CBT which are time consuming,
Absolutely.
resource demanding as well.
Yeah. So, for example, our service, we work with people up to 3 years.
Wow.
And we're supposed to provide a range of interventions to help, one of which is, as you mentioned, medication. But then you've got the interventions that require building a relationship.
Yeah,
Trust, absolutely. And for the people who are suffering the most severe mental health problems, they're the ones who have the experiences that lead to being mistrustful.
Not being able to trust.
That
takes a lot of time.
Takes a lot of time, absolutely. So you can see that it doesn't add up. It really doesn't add up.
What are the common mental illnesses or issues that you see amongst your patients, especially today?
I mean, I'd say the universal problem that underpins a lot of the mental health problems, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's psychosis, whether it's OCD, is there's this kind of general undercurrent of a lack of safety. Yeah, a lack of containment, and this kind of anxiety to kind of keep going. People are mentally and physically exhausted. And if you think about young people, one of the things that we notice, certainly from that study which I mentioned, some of the themes that were brought up were really interesting. So all of the young people who reported struggling, they all universally stated that they were all feeling unsafe.
Really?
Unsafe physically,
really,
in person, online, and none of them were enjoying learning as much as they'd like to be enjoying learning. And here's another one, which is interesting: is most reported not having friends to turn to support them. The people around them, but those genuinely supportive, caring, those the ones who they've got your back, whatever happens. Yeah. Rather than just fair weather friends who are only there.
I can imagine without that, you really have no security.
You don't. Yeah.
You're right. And then the trust as well. It's like, who can you trust?
Yeah. Which perplexes a lot of people because, look at us nowadays. We have so much in terms of resources. What are they saying nowadays? We're more wealthy, but less healthy.
Yeah. Why would that be?
I mean, it's a big question,
why would
isn't
that
it?
be?
It's a big question, isn't it? And it's a complex, really complex question. I mean, when you think about, what's changed that's fueling this demand for help. Certainly one of the things that we do notice is this comparison between each other,
See, that's exhausting.
It is exhausting, It feels like it's a competition.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go.
You're competing every day, all the time.
It's a competition. And if you stop in your tracks to take a breather, you get left behind. If you think about what you see on social media, it changes every second, And
I guess it's because you can't get away from it as well.
No.
I mean, like back in the day, maybe, and obviously it's exacerbated by social media.
Yes.
Because it's in your face all the time.
Yeah.
You have your phones on you, which gives you 24/7 access to the internet, which gives you then 24 access to the lives of anyone around the world, especially like the 0.01% of people who look perfect, who have everything, right? Or they may not look perfect, they may not have everything, but they know how to manipulate to make it seem that way.
Curated lives,
Exactly.
It's people are never going to put the warts on online.
That's because I read this one study, and they said the massive kind of how would you call it, explosion in depression and unhappiness was simultaneous with the release of the iPhone.
Right. That's
because the iPhone, put the internet in people's hands.
Yeah.
And there was a time when every teenager had to have not necessarily an iPhone, but a smartphone. And the study showed the simultaneous rise of unhappiness and depression because of that. They mentioned you're bombarded with laser-focused advertising, right?
Absolutely.
Right? It's like instant gratification, information without context.
Yes.
That could be.
Absolutely. And I think because information is so instantaneous, if you want to know something, you just have to Google it, right? You don't have to wait for anything nowadays, really.
It's instant. Yeah,
it's
you can
instant.
have anything.
Yeah.
Right. The answers to anything. I remember when we were younger, advertisers to get to us, right? To kind of build a need, in order for them to create a need in us, like for a toy or a new product or something, it was on a Sunday morning.
Yes.
Do you remember those days?
Absolutely.
Sunday mornings when you're watching cartoons,
Yep.
and then the commercials, the adverts would come on, and then they would be about this toy. That those are the only times I remember we'd be exposed to advertisements. But can you imagine now? I mean, the youth today won't be able to grasp that because now they're bombarded with advertisements.
Yeah. Well, they don't have to wait. We have to wait till Sunday morning to watch our programs.
There you go. That too. Yeah.
So this instant, everything is on demand. It speeds everything up,
Gotcha.
doesn't it? It just speeds everything up, and I guess it speaks to maybe answering a bit of that question about why is it now that we have more, that we are more miserable as well. But what's interesting as well from what we understand psychologically about what happens to people's minds in this kind of environment is that when resources are plenty, and everyone is gathering all the resources, whether it's knowledge, whether it's possessions, we're never satisfied.
Yeah.
You know, because there's always more out there.
Yeah.
Everyone's
We're
harvesting.
so used to having, so used to getting.
Yeah. We don't kind of stop to say, okay, that's enough, you know.
Yeah.
Because no one else is saying that's enough.
Yeah.
That I guess the bar's been raised so high now, in order to just have an adequate quality of life,
Gotcha.
you've got to work, you know,
That's
really,
true.
really hard. Because everyone's racing. Everyone's racing,
Yeah.
including our children. And what that does to our brains is, we were talking about compassion theory, weren't we?
Yeah.
And thinking about the three system model that comprises the compassion model, and the two in question there are, you know, the drive system, the drive or resource seeking system, you know, which is good when you're looking for what you need, isn't it? You know, but it's no longer looking for what you need now. That resource system, it doesn't.
What you want.
It's what you want, or what people say we need.
We need, yeah.
Yeah,
The pressure for you to have.
for you to have, absolutely, so that you can just stay
Yeah.
on the same
Stay in the
level
race.
stay in the race,
Yeah.
stay on the same level as everyone else. So you don't sink. So, but the lethal combination there is that you've got the drive system that's activated, that's gathering more and more and more, with the threat system saying, well, if you stop, you're going to get left behind. So the threat nowadays is, if you stop, you lose your social standing. If you stop, you lose your workplace promotion, you know, opportunities. If you stop, you'll be poorer, or you just, you know. So that's the threat.
So that's where the exhaustion comes from.
Absolutely. And the little forgotten third part of that system is what's called the soothing and contentment system, or the care system. No one has time to care anymore, because we're all in the race.
Because there's a debate going on, right?
Yeah.
It's either there's more people depressed today because of society, because of you know, social, environmental factors, right? But then the other camp would say, no, depression has always been there. It's just that we're more able to recognize it today.
Right.
So it's always been there, but it's just coming out. But I don't know. I disagree with that, because then that would nullify the saying that that we are a result of what happens to us. To an extent, we are a result of our genetics, right? But to a large extent, we are also a result. We are who we are as a result of what happens around us, right? Like you'll find that people who've come from wars, from tragedies, you know, they tend to be more resilient, right? But then there are people who live in good times, and they tend to become more fragile.
Yeah.
That's why there's that saying: hard times create good leaders. Strong leaders. Strong leaders create good times.
Yes.
Good times create weak people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that? Would you agree with that?
I would to an extent, and I think it's important to understand what happens kind of psychologically. You know, I think pain, adversity, is unavoidable in life, and especially, you know, like you're surrounded by, you know, poverty, war, and you've got no choice but to kind of survive it, or do your best to survive it. And when you've come out of it, for the people who tend to thrive and flourish are those that learn from those experiences, and those experiences help them to understand, you know, what it is they've done to survive that situation. So I've a patient.
It's like that saying.
Yeah.
where it goes, what doesn't kill you will only make you stronger.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like there was a recent study done as well about, the Jews who survived the Holocaust,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they asked them, how are you affected by it? And they
Yes.
said they're happy.
Yes. Yes.
They live happy lives.
Yes.
They're strong and they're resilient as
Yes.
well because they've
Yeah.
seen the horrors. But then by seeing the horrors of what they went through, they also are able to appreciate the beauty and the gifts of life.
Yeah.
So maybe it has something to do with also like not having that victim mentality.
Well, I have a patient that I recently finished working with, and his trauma was he got stabbed, and ever since that stabbing, he really, really struggled. And what was apparent from that incident that stuck with him was this ongoing belief he held about himself that he was somehow a failure for not preventing himself from being stabbed.
Wow.
So somehow it was his fault.
Wow.
There was something about him that he wasn't good enough to protect himself, and carry that with him. And that was the lesson he learned from that stabbing. The problem with that is that it wasn't just confined to that incident. He started to question
everything,
whether he was good enough for his family, whether he was good enough for his work. So everything came crashing down.
Yeah.
And fast forward, once we took a really deep dive and processed the traumas, what he actually discovered was there were things that he did do that enabled him to be here to tell the story today. That he couldn't prevent the stabbing, that it was something that was going to happen, but he did survive it. So a lot of it is about what you believe about yourself as a result of the adversity you've been through. So he changed from, well, yes, adversity happens, but it wasn't my fault, and I did what I could to survive, and here I am today. So actually I am adequate. I am good enough. And one of the really nice stories that he told me in my last session with him was that I have this neighbor who's kind of struggling to go out. He's depressed, and when he was struggling himself, he said, I couldn't face him because I just couldn't bear the feelings of helplessness that I had every time I see him, because I can't help him. I can't even help myself. I couldn't even prevent myself from getting stabbed. But after he realized all those, he kind of knocked on his door and said, "You know what? Let's just go for a walk."
That's nice.
Yeah. Fully accepting that he's not going to solve his problems.
Yeah.
But you were just going to be with him and give him kind of, care. Care without, having to...
So it's that human kind of interaction that's important as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And do you think that social media has kind of taken that away? Taken that personal interaction?
Well, the quality is different, isn't it? It's not a person really that you're interacting with, is it?
Yeah, because some people say, well, I still text, I still communicate.
Yeah.
But I think it's being with each other physically.
Yeah.
Going out, doing the things together.
That genuine connection, that genuine feeling of care and concern that you have from that really authentic, just being with one another.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what maybe social media does. I remember you mentioned this before. It kind of puts up like a filter. Even though you're with them online, it's not the same.
No.
By being with them physically.
Yeah.
On a very intimate, personal level.
Yes, I agree.
Because of for example, like texts. One person was asked, how do they feel whenever they send out a message or a tweet or they put up a post? They say that waiting for the response already makes them anxious.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Am I correct? Right? I'm looking at the people behind the camera.
Yeah.
Waiting for the response, waiting for those 3 dots to come up, just to know that or they're responding.
Someone's
But
seen
those
me.
moments,
Yeah.
those moments like there's no
Yeah, yeah.
response, that's like a high moment of anxiety. Anxiety
And
there.
what does that mean? That nobody's
yeah,
replying.
yeah.
You know, nobody's seeing me. Nobody's acknowledging me or validating.
You have no
me.
idea how they're responding. I mean, because I can relate to that. I think we all can. I mean, you know, we all use social media, and I don't know exactly how that feels when you've just put out a message and you're just waiting, like, oh wait, what's happening? Is it being read? Or maybe it's been read and it wasn't liked. Maybe I've offended. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then you see the text coming, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that was good. That feels good.
Yeah.
I feel better now. And can you imagine that happening, like not only day after day, but like
Gosh, that's
throughout your day?
Imagine that's your main mode of communication. You're so afraid to. Yeah, I can relate to that. When I send a message to my team, I would make sure I've, curated that message.
Yeah.
So that, because I'm thinking about how they're going to read it. No.
Whereas when you're with someone, there's so many cues you can pick up on.
Well, again, it's that cliche about it's the quality, not the quantity, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think we've lost the quality.
Yeah.
Social media doesn't give you, for the most part, the quality of human connection.
True.
Yeah.
Not only main mode of communication. Imagine if your how would you call it? If your happiness is dependent on that.
Right.
Imagine if you're
yes.
a social, content creator or something, and
yes.
you're an influencer,
Yeah.
and your your self-worth maybe is dependent on how many likes, how many responses you get, and you're there waiting, and that's like a cycle you're going through every day. That will mess you up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Can you imagine?
It's the numbers now, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah. Okay. So we grew up together, right?
We did.
We were born in the 70s. So I think within the Filipino community, we were like one of the first. We were probably the first generation born and raised in this country.
Yes, we are.
So we've
yes.
kind of seen the massive change in society. Because I can tell you, our time. I don't want to say back in the day. It makes it sound like old, Back in those days, it's very different than today.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. A lot of people today are they suffer from anxiety, depression. Me growing up, and those around me, unless it was hidden, I don't recall many people as there are today suffering from the anxiety, depression, and sadness that many do today. I don't know. Is that?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Amongst our circle of friends, I don't think we ever spoke about so-and-so is depressed or anxious.
True.
And I guess we didn't have the same language then as we do now.
True. But the thing is, you don't need language to feel a certain way, right?
No, you don't.
You know what I mean? It's not like I'm happy. All of a sudden, says, "Oh, did you know that depression is this definition?"
Yes,
and you're like,
yes.
"Oh, wait a second, now I'm sad."
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that, right? You're sad,
No.
regardless of what word it is, right?
I think we just knew. We just knew how we were doing. We were so connected with one another that we were in tune with each other. You would know when someone's having a rough day. You would know when someone's off.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I do know a few people who had a traumatic childhood.
Sure.
I do know.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Right? But they went through things.
Right.
They went through tough things.
Yeah.
But generally, I don't know. Maybe it's because me. I was pretty much a happy kid.
Yeah. That's how I remember you.
Kid.
Yeah, that's definitely how I remember you.
There was really only one time I was really down in the dumps, but I wouldn't call it depression. It was because I went through something.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I'll bring it up now. I mean, you're well aware of this.
I am.
We
Yes. I
talked
think
about
I
this
know what you're
before.
talking about. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we talked about this before. I was a happy kid. Always saw things in a positive light. But then I went through something, and it was because something to do with the Chinese mafia triads.
The triad, yes.
When I was in high school, the younger brothers of like some triad bosses would come into the school and chase me and my friends out.
Right.
Because they would try to take us, pull us into the gang, into the
recruit you,
group.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So we were like, this happened for like a good couple of weeks, and it really brought me down.
Yes.
I was thinking like, oh, I can't go out anymore.
Yes.
I can't go to school properly. These guys are just chasing me, and I don't want to get pulled into that kind of into that kind of world, into that lifestyle. That was really the only time I remember I was really down in the dumps. But then I remember, because you were the Kadiwa president, right? You were the Kadiwa president. Kadiwa is the organization within our church
Yes.
of unmarried members.
Yes.
And then I think I approached you and Kaemer,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Was he the vice or something?
Yes.
Or he was with you in the leadership?
He was with, yeah.
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 And what I remember, this is what is profound for me. This was profound for me. And I believe this is why, and this is one of the comforting things that, the church and our community in the church has brought to me, right? Is that when I told you, you and Kaemer decided to come down to where I live, to Peckham, right? Not to fight these guys, because, that would not be possible, obviously, right?
No.
But to talk to them.
Yes.
To talk to them, it's just you two.
Yes.
And I was like shocked. I was surprised. I was shocked because I was thinking like, if you come down and talk to them, it's not going to end. It's not going to end nicely. It's not going to end, But you still came down, and I remember you came down.
We did.
And you even told. Asked me to bring. You asked me to bring you guys to the place where they actually hung out to talk to them.
Yes.
Thankfully, they weren't there.
They weren't there. Yeah.
For some strange reason, they're always there, but they weren't there.
But that day they weren't there.
Yeah, they weren't there. So I remember we even walked around Peckham looking for
Yes. Yes. Yes.
just to talk to them.
Yes. Yes.
You didn't stand a chance.
No.
Right? You wouldn't stood a chance.
No.
But I mean, at least you had you made the effort to talk to them. And for me, I remember as a young kid, that was very profound for me, and it gave me a sense of security. Because knowing that there are people who have your back, not because they just call you their friends, but because there is that bond of brotherhood.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In the church, which we adhere to because it is a command of God. So it's like an unbreakable chain.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, I'm your friend because you're cool and you've done good things to me and you're cool to hang out with. You're a good laugh. It's because no, we're brothers in the church.
Yes.
And it was your duty as the Kadiwa president to look after those under your care.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I do remember that time, and I mean, what I remember was we didn't even give it a second thought. It was just we just.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I was shocked. I was like, even when you came down to Peckham, I was still like, I can't believe these guys are here.
Yeah.
I
think we were slightly naive.
Obviously, when you're that age, innit?
Yeah, we thought that we were, but at the same time, we just couldn't not be around. And I remember Kaemer, he was just determined to. To,
I won't forget that.
Absolutely determined. We weren't gonna. Yeah, we weren't gonna leave you behind. There was no. That wasn't even an option. Whatever it took, basically. Whatever it took. Yeah.
And that's what I've always felt. I mean, because it's the brotherhood in the church. It's like the love of a family.
Yes.
The truth is, because it's principle based, because it's a command of God, it's greater than the love in a family. You do it because it's your principle, because it's a command of Christ.
It was such a huge.
And with that security, sorry, I don't mean to cut you.
Go for it.
Having that security is such a powerful thing in your life.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine my life without that.
No.
I couldn't imagine my life thinking that just my closest friends I've made in school would be my most inner circle. I couldn't put my confidence in them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do it on that level.
Well, confidence, that's something that's lacking. When we think about the study that we quoted right at the beginning, one of the themes was young people just don't feel safe.
That's it.
They don't feel that confidence that people have their back.
That's it.
You know?
That's it. Because they have no one. They have no one. And if they do have someone, there's no reason for them to get their back.
Yeah. What principle?
There's no reason.
What principle is behind that? Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
How about you? What was your experience growing up? You know,
Yeah.
did you ever suffer from depression? Or?
I would say I probably did. I didn't call it that. You know,
Right.
there was a lot of kind of distress, shall we say. Yeah, I did have a tough time. I had a tough time at school. Yeah. Yeah, really tough time at school. You know, it was secondary school as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I was the only, should we say, person of my culture in school.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
You know, we were minorities amongst
That's right.
minorities. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And for the most part, you know, people were just curious and would leave you alone. But you know, I guess when I got a little bit older, being that different wasn't great, and you know, I was, yeah, bullied at school, and yeah, that really called into question, you know, what I believed about myself. It really does, and I think that's the biggest. For me, that's probably the effect, the negative effect that lasts. It's not the actual event, shall we say,
Right.
that continues to hurt. It's
It's the questions you ask yourself.
questions
like,
you ask yourself.
Again, going back to the example you gave earlier on about your patient.
Yeah.
Is it me? It's me.
Is it me?
Isn't it?
Is it me?
Something I did. Something wrong with me.
Is there something wrong with me? And I carry that with me for years. You know, there must be something wrong with me for me to have been victimized like that, or there must be something flawed about me. And when you don't have that kind of confidence in yourself, you're constantly, you know, checking, am I good enough? And it took a while. It took a while for me to recognize that actually, you know what, that had very little to do with who I was. That was more them.
Yeah.
But that took a long time.
Yeah.
And I would say that if I didn't have the church, if I didn't have the group of
Mm-hmm.
friends, brothers,
Yeah.
that brotherhood around me,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have felt that safety for me
Yeah.
to realize that.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You know, I remember, you know, church was our refuge.
Mhm.
You know, weekends.
Yeah. Weekends in Lachmere Road.
Lachmere
Yeah.
Road. You know, we were there.
Yeah, it was always just us.
There, and you knew that whatever you went through, right? You knew whatever you were going through. That
I mean, there was mucking about, there was teasing and stuff,
Sure,
but at the end of the day, we knew that we loved each other.
Sure.
We knew
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
would take care of each
yeah,
other,
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
and that
100%.
is very reassuring.
Yeah.
And that's what we have. And this is what I'm saying, you know, for our fellow brethren watching this, that shouldn't be taken for granted.
No.
It shouldn't be, because it really is something special. It really is something special. But then on the other hand, this is what brings us back to the issue of what we're talking about today, you know, true care and concern within the church. For those who are in leadership positions, for those who are, you know, CWS teachers, for those who are Bini Kadiwa presidents, Buklud presidents, you know, ministers like myself. Even if you're not an officer in the church, we really should genuinely care for each other. And this was the recent lecture of our executive minister. And the lesson was about genuine care and concern for the church.
Right.
And what he did after the lecture is that he made he made us ministers make a reaction paper. And the two questions were: do you care for and love the church?
Right.
And the second question was how.
How?
See, this is how important.
Right.
This is how important care and love for the church, for our brothers and sisters, is.
Right.
That's how important it is. And that's what we have inside the church. It's the same. The way it was back then, it's the same today, right? We have these organizations within the church organizations which primarily are there so that the brethren can be taken care of and loved.
Right.
Isn't how important is that when it comes to mental health? And is there an absence of that today in the world?
Oh, absolutely. I'm in a position where I can see both sides. I look at and I treat patients who don't have that safety and security that the church provides, the Christian families organizations provide, the Brotherhood provides. And it's a glaring gap, especially when we come towards the end of our work together, okay, so we've got you back, you've recovered, but what's going to keep you from coming back? What's going to keep you from becoming unwell again? Because the world, no matter how hard people try, it's not going to get any easier.
You just keep on bombarding you with trials and tests.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't do without it.
And then it always never fails to cross my mind. I ask the question, if you were a member of the church, the solution would be easy. It would be easy. I probably wouldn't be seeing you here because you would have had the safety and security to prevent you from deteriorating to this point in the first place.
Yeah.
But if you ever do, you've got that structure around you, to help you rediscover that actually that adversity is just an exception. The norm is that you have everyone around you who genuinely cares for you.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to your question, how important is that? I would say that's fundamental.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basis.
Yeah.
Which is why I always say, in my capacity as a head deacon, I always ask, the officers to ask themselves, whenever you are with or interact with the people who are under your care, ask yourself, do they actually feel cared for?
The care and concern, yeah.
Do they feel that? Or are we just going through the motions? Are we just ticking boxes?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as you were saying earlier on, the number of cases are increasing.
Yes.
It's growing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what's being sacrificed is the quality of care.
Quality, 100%. Yeah, quality.
But then that shouldn't be an excuse for us in the church,
Never.
should it? It shouldn't
Never.
be an excuse.
Never.
Because it's just more people to love.
Absolutely.
More people to take care of.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like if you have more children, it's more sacrifice you have to,
Yeah.
You have to dish out to your kids.
Yeah.
You can't dilute the love.
No.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's huge that we all support one another genuinely. And that second question about how do you care and love the church, that is key, isn't it?
So how would you put it into practical terms? Caring and loving for the church without just ticking boxes.
Yeah.
Without just going through the motions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I mean,
How what would be some of the practical advices that we could do?
Yeah. I mean, it always comes back to what is the purpose of an activity? What is the purpose of an interaction or a visit? Why are we there? I think that's always a good starting point. And I think if we can primarily be there with the intention of caring,
Yeah.
genuinely caring, hearing, listening, without jumping to any sort of conclusion or trying to fix something when we don't even understand what's going on, just being with people genuinely.
Yeah. And that kind of brings us back to what we were talking about earlier on. One of the causes of this, increase in depression, it's the lack of interpersonal connections, right? Interpersonal connections, right? And that's why we're always being encouraged by the church administration in our church to do these visitations.
Yes.
They're really important.
Yes.
And I think what you said as well, it's not just about ticking boxes or just, having gone through the motions of visiting. It's genuinely wanting to know, how are you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, really, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
okay, but no, really, how are you?
Really,
Are you
how
going
are
through
you?
anything?
Yeah.
And I think it's really giving that time, trying to find out, because we all go through things sometimes, right? And sometimes when people, they ask in a very kind of fleeting way, "Oh, how are you?" When you don't feel it's genuine,
Yeah. You give
I'm just fine. I'm fine.
you give a canned answer, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Canned answer. Yeah, I'm fine. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you genuinely, because we all want to share our hardships, it's nice when you can share what you're going through with someone. But when
Yeah.
someone's genuinely asking, because they genuinely want to know,
Yeah.
we will open up.
Absolutely.
We will open up. Yeah, it's so true.
And you know when someone isn't genuinely asking.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
when someone isn't.
Yeah.
And then you withhold. You don't feel that care.
Yeah.
So if anyone is ever going to, visit or interact with someone who we know is struggling, you've really got to reflect on yourself.
Yeah.
Am I
Concerned.
concerned?
Yeah.
And
Do I really want to know and help?
yeah,
Someone might be struggling in their faith, and being there, especially for we as ministers, to answer the questions, to kind of reassure them. Because if we let that opportunity go, we may end up losing them.
yes,
If we missed the opportunity to get to the root,
yes,
that could have been the last time. That could have been the last hope
yeah,
that we would have had
Yeah.
to help them.
yeah. But those genuine moments when you truly are 100% with that person, and they fully feel
Yeah.
how much care and concern that you feel for them, that could be
That could be the life-changing
that could be the make or break,
moment,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's all it is, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really making time. And as you said before, not the quantity, isn't it, but the quality
It's
of
the
the
quality.
time.
It is the quality. It is
The quality of the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some more of, what we can do. I mean, obviously there are lots of initiatives being launched. Administration is doing everything to create activities to kind of keep us busy together,
Yes.
right? Busy doing worthwhile things.
Yes. Yes.
And that's why it's so important for brethren to get involved. Obviously, initially, when you're at home, you're not ready yet, and the activities in a few hours,
Yes.
it's always the easy way out to say, "Oh,
Absolutely.
I'm just not going to go.
It's the path
I'm
of
just
least
not going to do it."
resistance, isn't it?
Yeah, path of least
It is a path of
resistance.
least
Absolutely.
resistance,
I'm not going to go. But I think it's putting the effort in, just doing it. We don't do it just because we feel like it, because sometimes we don't feel like it, right?
See, most of the time we don't feel like
Exactly, most of the time. But just do it.
Just do it anyway.
Out of principle, knowing that it's good for us, right? It's like exercising. Sometimes you don't feel like exercising, right?
Yes.
You jog, you bike, isn't it? I go
do.
gym, and sometimes you don't feel like it. But never have I heard a person who has picked themselves up, gone and done it,
And then
come back home and regret it.
Yeah.
Right?
They
They've
always
been
feel
like,
better
I'm
for
glad
it.
I did that.
They always feel better for it.
It's like church activities.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
You've got to turn up. Just turn up.
Yeah.
And then you'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah. God will do the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then on the other hand as well, right, those who are facilitating, those who are leading, should also play a part in making everyone feel welcome.
Yes.
Right? The leaders, isn't it?
Yes, you've got to be aware. You've got to be vigilant for those, because not everyone is going to, be as comfortable socially. And I think that's we've got to be sensitive to that.
Yes.
Not just assume that if we just get a bunch of people together that the connections will just magically happen.
Yeah, no.
Some people will require a little bit more
Yeah.
effort, and I think though
For some people, that connection magically happens.
It does, yeah.
Without even trying, isn't it?
Right.
But then where's the love in that? I mean, if you can't put an effort to connect with those who you don't magically connect with, right? No?
It's easy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what brings it value, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your faith. If you've strived for it, if you've worked hard for
Yes,
it, if you've
yes.
sacrificed for it, if you had to step out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
that's where the real love is created. Value is created. When you strive, try for it.
I was in a meeting last week, and I actually said it to the group of overseers. I said, make sure that you take care of everyone, not just the easy ones, but actually the ones that are hard to love and care for.
Yeah.
You've got to make extra effort for those.
True, yeah.
Because not everyone is receptive to your efforts.
Mm-hmm.
But then do we just dismiss them? Do we just write them off?
Yeah.
Well, we don't. We don't leave anyone behind, do we? And yeah, as you said, if it's easy, then fine. But what about when it's tough, when it's hard? Do we still make that same effort? And I think that's a good measure of where we are, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of how much we do care.
We have this community. We have the church. We have a church administration that facilitates the caring. And our administration in the church, they do their best to make sure that we're reminded of our duty to care, and to make sure also that we carry out the caring.
Yes. Yes.
At least in this world of which is getting more difficult to live in, at least we have the community. We have each other, members of the church. We have the genuine love, right, in the church that Jesus Christ commanded unto us. And we also have a church administration. We have an executive minister who is leading by example. And I think on that note, to finish it off, I think our Darwin, we both experienced an act of care and concern of our executive minister, didn't we?
We did.
Right?
We did, yes.
And it was our recent assignment in Iceland.
Yes.
Right. We were.
Yes.
We have a few brethren in Iceland, and they're scattered throughout the country. And our executive minister wanted to make sure that they're okay.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So it was their Holy Supper, and I was assigned there, and assigned also to bring a group of officers with me to officiate the worship service. And you were a part of that. You were the head deacon that officiated in the worship service.
Yes.
Right. We went there with a bunch of brethren. How many of us?
We did. I think there's about 20,
20, isn't it?
20 of us.
And it was wonderful. It was such a great experience.
Yeah.
And the brethren there couldn't believe it.
I know.
And we told them, we're here because executive minister just wants to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah.
We went there and we used our resources, took time off work, you guys, right?
We did, yes.
We officiated worship service, but we also spent time with each other and with them.
We connected.
Yes. Show them our love. We had lunch and dinner together.
Yeah.
Spent time with them.
Yeah. It wasn't a tick box exercise.
It wasn't a tick box.
We genuinely connected and got to know them, and it was a wonderful, powerful experience.
And that's really profound for them. I mean, that the effects of what was done remains with them.
Yes.
And their faith is stronger now more than ever. Because we keep in constant contact with them.
Yeah.
And praise be to God, the congregation has grown there in just a few months. I mean, we didn't really have to do anything. We just showed our love as what God commands, and then now the number's growing. We've got new brethren there who have registered there.
Yes.
And I think that was a really deep and profound experience, not only for them but also for us. You can ask everyone, isn't it, who went with us?
Absolutely.
They'll tell you what a wonderful experience that was.
Yeah.
And that's just testament to the importance of care and concern.